guys, we got this great clip from one of our long content videos. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Enjoy. Disadvantages to minimum wage. Number one, minimum wage could prevent employers from hiring people that don't have the skill set. So while I talk about minimum wage as a starter kit job, as a way for you to learn a skill set, it actually could be the opposite of that. Because if you have to pay a higher minimum wage than established businesses or businesses that aren't established, they just can't afford to pay that higher rate. And when they can't afford to pay that higher rate, that means that they don't hire someone who doesn't already have a skill set. So it's going to lessen your ability to get a job because it just costs too much for the employer. So that's number one. Number two, with recent price inflation, employers, businesses, they have to figure out a way to maintain profit margins in order to stay in business. And so if you add on minimum wage or higher minimum wage to inflation, it can often put new, young, or starting out businesses completely out of business. It can just be something that's just, one step too many and causes businesses to go out of business, or worse, causes people not to go into business because they think that they just can't afford it. So that's a hindrance. That's a negative for the minimum wage. Number three, and this is a big one, and I hear it a lot because on this channel, we encourage small business owners. We encourage entrepreneurship, and we hear often about the cost to starting businesses and to getting started and the profit margins being low and not being able to compete with the big business, the big box businesses, or the well-established businesses that aren't growing. So it's a discouragement to entrepreneurship. It's a discouragement to the starting of new businesses. So they kind of start to stack on each other. And you guys can see this if you look through the eyes of the employer. I know oftentimes we just want to look through the eyes of the employee, and we want to make sure that we have this minimum standard, and we would call it even maybe a living wage. And guys, I'm not convinced at all that minimum wage is a living wage. I'm not trying to suggest that. In fact, I'm suggesting the opposite of that. I believe that if you're working for minimum wage, once you've figured out your skill set, once you've gotten that job and you know how to do it very well, go in and ask for a raise. It's time to move. And by moving, you can increase your wage. But you want to use minimum wage to learn a skill set and then go in and ask for a raise, or use the minimum wage job to learn a skill set and then go start a business if that's how you're wired. So number four, and these kind of things all stack on each other. If minimum wage is the standard for someone who's starting out who doesn't have a skill set, and you make it too expensive, then you can no longer hire the people who don't have the skill set. You can no longer give them on-the-job training. And if you can no longer give them on-the-job training, you can't hire those people. So now you have to hire higher skilled people to do the minimum wage jobs, or just not have minimum wage jobs at all. So which would mean that you're only looking for people who already have the skill set, which does go back to what I just said a minute ago. Once you've got the skill set, it's time to get a raise. So those are 3 or 4 hindrances to minimum wage. Now let's next talk about who should use minimum wage to get started in business or to get started in life. And we've talked about this already a few times in the pros and the cons, both of them. Minimum wage, guys, I believe is for people who are starting out. So if you're a young person, if you're a teenager and you've never had a job before, getting a minimum wage job is a rite of passage. You go from living in mom and dad's home and they take care of everything, and now you've got to get a job. You don't have any experience, you don't have any education, and you don't have a skill. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to go find a minimum wage job, and hopefully you're going to learn a skill set. And that is one way, or that is one demographic that should be looking to use minimum wage jobs to get a start out and get a foot up in life. Number two, anyone who's unskilled should be looking at minimum wage jobs, again, as a way to gain skills, right? We want to start stacking skills and then making moves and increasing your revenues and increasing your wages. We say it all the time on this channel, guys. Once you've gone into a job and you've learned the skill set, you're 90 days down the road, and you started out, let's say you started out working for my friend Patrick's roofing company here in Puerto Rico, and he's paying you minimum wage to go up there and learn how to be a roofer. And now you're 90 days in and you actually know how to do the job. One of two things is going to happen. If you know how to do the job, Patrick's going to give you a raise and you're no longer going to be working for minimum wage. And if you haven't figured it out in 90 days and you're still a hindrance, he's going to sit you down and say, look, I'm going to give you another 30 or 45 days, but if you don't figure this out quick, there will no longer be a job for you. And that's how that works, guys. So you use this if you don't have a skill to learn a skill. And again, once you've learned the skill, ask for a raise, go get a different job. If you get a skill set, say you're working on this roof and you now know how to put a roof on and you're making $9 an hour, just above minimum wage, but you're skilled at it, you know what you're doing, and you go to your boss and you ask him for a raise and he says, no, I can't afford to give you a raise, call the other roofing companies in town because someone's going to hire you. Now you've got the skill. You're worth more than minimum wage at that point. And by making moves, you're going to increase your revenue. Trust me on this, guys. I've done this in my life personally. Hey guys, thanks for watching that. Subscribe to our channel, watch this next, and then also check out the pinned content for more great content, guys. God bless.